Hello everyone and welcome back to the Netherworld Bibliothèque. My name is Vervain and today I'm going to be reviewing The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is her autobiography which was published in 2023 by Gallery Books and features a cover photo by her Brits. So I'm going to start first by talking about the cover photo and my first impressions, judging a book by its cover, so to speak. And then I will move on to the content of the book. I will leave timestamps in the description if you just want to jump ahead to certain topics. So let's get started with the cover photo. When I saw this, I thought, you know what, Britney is currently in her early 40s. And so of all the photos that she could have chosen to go with, she chose this photo where she is younger. So this photo was taken in 2001, so she would have been about like 19, 20 when this photo was taken. And I thought, this book is about the woman in you and everything that you've gone to get to this point in your life. But of all the photos that you could have gone with, you've still gone with an older photo where you're stereotypically young and beautiful and sexy. And I thought, you know what, could you have picked any photo? If it was truly your decision, could you have picked a photo of you being in your 40s? Was that an option, or because sex sells, did you have to go with this younger photo? The next thing that I noticed is this pose, which is kind of contradictory. It's like, I don't know if juxtaposition is the word, but on one hand, she's half naked, but then on the other hand, she's turning away and she's covering her breasts. So it's kind of like, look at me, but don't look at me. Like I'm burying myself. I want you to look at me. I'm being sexual, but also don't look at me. I'm vulnerable. You're intruding. And having read the book, she does talk about when she was a little kid and simultaneously loving performing, loving being on stage, but also at that age, she loved to hide. She loved to hide in cupboards, and there was always this sort of like hide and seek game of like, oh, where's Britney hiding now? And she says both things can be true at the same time. I can simultaneously want to be seen and want to hide. And when I read that, it really made me think of this cover, and I thought, did she choose this photo deliberately because it is capturing look at me, but don't look at me? Or maybe I'm just overthinking it. Let me know your thoughts. But to circle back to my first point, that she did have to go with this photo where she's young, beautiful, and attractive. It did remind me of this thing that Dr. Gail Dine says, which is either you're fuckable or you're invisible. And I don't think that's a revelation to anyone. I think that is particularly true of any woman in the media. Britney begins by talking about her grandparents. So on her dad's side, her paternal grandparents were June and Jean. So Jean is the grandma, it's who Britney is named after, Britney Jean Spears, and then Britney was married to June. Britney says that by the time she met June, so by the time he was a grandfather, that he had really mellowed and that she has quite fond memories of him. However, anyone who knew him previously in his earlier days did not have a good word to say about him. He was abusive both to Jean and to their children, Jamie being Britney's dad. That he was abusive. He especially pushed Jamie extremely hard in sports, similar to, if you know, Andre Agassi and the way that Andre Agassi's father trained/abused him into playing tennis. It was that kind of thing. But that also Jean had a baby who she lost after 3 days. She obviously was grieving. She never recovered. Britney says that June sent her to a psychiatric ward, so I don't know if that means like he physically took her there or if he so to speak drove her crazy, but anyway, the grandma Jean ended up in a psychiatric ward for some time, and then 8 years after that baby's passing, she shot herself over the baby's grave. So that gives you an idea of the type of family that Jamie was raised in. So clearly he has some trauma. It is not an excuse for his behavior in the future, but I think it is relevant to show that he did not come from a stable, loving, happy family. Britney's parents are Jamie and Lynn. So you might know that Britney has a younger sister called Jamie Lynn, and that's where her name comes from. So the father, Jamie, for a time had a gym, and that did quite well, and the family were reasonably well off financially. However, he was also an alcoholic, and this led to him losing the business. He was abusive. The alcohol did cause, many fights, and sometimes he was absent. And Britney says that when he was absent, this was a reprieve because at least the house was quiet. In addition to her dad being an alcoholic, she says that sometimes he would drink himself into a stupor, and this is when the mum, Lynn, would really have her moment to have a go at him, and she'd be, screaming and shouting at him, and he was so drunk he was paralyzed, like he couldn't move, couldn't respond. And Britney remembers many nights where she was trying to sleep and she couldn't because her parents were screaming, and not her parents, her mum specifically was screaming at the dad. And Britney remembers cursing her mum and like going out in the evenings and being like, just feed him and put him to bed, can't you see that he's sick? But now as an adult she regrets that, and she says, wasn't that awful? Shouldn't I have shown compassion towards my mum, because my dad is the one who's drinking, we're poor because of him, he's violent, my mum is stressed trying to keep the family together, but I'm directing my anger at her. And I think this is the first time in the book, pretty early on, that we see Britney's character and we see what a nice person she is and what a kind-hearted person she is, that when she's older, she's able to reflect and show compassion for her mum in that situation. And as the book goes on, there will be more and more examples where we see Britney's true character and truly what a lovely person she is. Britney really enjoyed performing. She said that she felt close to God, and it also gave her an escape from her turbulent home life. So when she was 8 years old, she tried out for this TV show called the all-new Mickey Mouse Club. After she had gone to the auditions, so when she was already there, she found out that you had to be 10 years old or older, and she was 8. So she lied and said she was 9. She was told that she was quite talented, but she didn't make the cut. She was then introduced to an agent in New York and was told, keep in touch and you can maybe try out again later. Here she mentions that there was another little girl, Christina Aguilera, who received similar news. And this is just mentioned in one line, just objectively, and this is how people are mentioned going forward. So she just said, there was another girl called Christina Aguilera, she was there as well, she received this news as well. Not anything about, she was wearing this, she behaved like this, I had this impression. Just objectively, this is who was there, this is what happened. And that is carried on throughout the book. So again, moving on, later on, there are people who Britney absolutely could be spiteful and angry about, but she isn't. She just objectively says, this is who was there, this is what happened. Again, just demonstrating to me what a kind-hearted person Britney is. So Britney is now 9 years old and she's working at a seafood restaurant. Her mum and her are flying back and forth to New York to do all sorts of different shows, be in touch with this agent. Now I had to reread this bit because I'm like, she's 9 years old and she's working in a restaurant. Like, what are the labor laws in Louisiana? Is this legal? If you live in Louisiana, if you know back in the day if this was legal, please let me know. But also, it's not the child's job to support the family. So if you have any more insight, please let me know. But her dad being an alcoholic, and then Britney I understand obviously it's expensive to fly, back and forth to New York all the time, but it is not a 9-year-old's job. Like, it's literally not their job. They're not allowed, as far as I know, to have a job at that age. Why is a child having to work to make this money? Where's the alcoholic father? Fast forward 2 years, so Britney is 11 and once again tries out for the all-new Mickey Mouse Club. This time she's ready, she's old enough, and she's accepted, and this is when she meets Justin Timberlake for the first time. She mentions meeting some other people who went on to become big-name celebrities, and that following the all-new Mickey Mouse Club, several people started to form bands. She and her mother discussed her options, and they decided that Britney should pursue a solo career. I'm now going to talk about Britney's public image and Justin Timberlake combined because these two topics are intertwined. So it's now 1999. Baby One More Time has come out. Britney is this huge pop star. She's dating Justin. She mentions that they were magnetic since they were young, since they met. Anytime they're in the room together, they find each other. They're drawn together like magnets. Apparently everyone could see this chemistry that they had. So it's 1999, Britney and NSYNC toured together, and at this time Britney says that she was hopelessly in love with Justin. Alright, she's very happy with him. Let's jump forward to 2000 and her performance at the VMAs. She talks about how she wore this sparkly top and these tight pants, and that afterwards she noticed that interview questions that she got were not the same as the ones that Justin got. So following this performance, MTV went out into the street and showed people the performance and asked, what do you think of Britney's performance? Some people were positive, but overall people had a negative reaction, saying that it was overly sexual and that she was corrupting the youth. And Britney was really taken aback because she would have been like 16, 17 years old at this point, so still a minor. And yeah, people saying that she's being overly sexual, making all of these comments, and she was like, I'm just a performer, I'm having a good time as a performer, doing the best that I can on stage, and just really taken aback that people think that A, she has this level of influence. As she says, she's 5'4", she's a 5'4" pop star. At this point she's, you know, a minor, but people think that she has this huge negative influence. But this would set the tone for the way that people would speak to Britney and how she was perceived. So I was a tween at this time, so I remember some of the things that happened, but some of them went over my head. But I definitely remember there was speculation about whether or not she had had breast implants and whether or not she was a virgin. So in this book, she mentions that she actually had sex for the first time when she was 14. So by the time we got to know her at 16 years old with Baby One More Time, she had already had sex. So all this speculation about whether or not you're a virgin, firstly, is inappropriate. That's nobody's business. But secondly, it was already like null and void. So I was, you know, quite surprised to hear that. So now let's skip ahead to 2002. At this time, Britney and Justin are living together. And Britney says that she was very happy with Justin, but she did know that at this point he had cheated on her a couple of times. She doesn't go into huge detail, but she does say there was this instance, or he confessed to this person and it got back to her. But she says that she loved him so much that she forgave him and overlooked it. Now this is the point where I need to step in and do some commentary and give some of my opinions, just so I'm not just summarizing the book. So Britney says that she forgave him because she loved him that much. But he repeatedly cheated on her. So girl, where is your love for yourself? Where's your self-respect? Where are your boundaries? You love someone so much, but they love you this little that they're repeatedly cheating on you? Get rid of them. As Dr. Phil says, they'll do it to you if you let them. So if he's cheated on you once and you know about it and you let him do it again, I'm not saying that he's right, I'm not taking Justin's side, but they'll do it to you if you let them. Where are your boundaries? Where's your self-respect? I'm not blaming Britney. Really, I'm being very fucking judgmental about her parents, because I don't think I fucking know. If you live in a family where your parents demonstrate a loving, respectful relationship, that tells you, that informs you what a relationship should be. So if Britney's parents had had a loving, respectful relationship, they would have modeled that for their children. And their children would therefore be like, hey, this person is cheating on me. They can fuck right off. This person has no respect for me. This person isn't good enough for me. But if your parents have modeled a chaotic, loveless, distrusting kind of household, you think, okay, that is what a relationship is, and it's wrong. So judgment and shame upon her parents. Now, beyond that, two wrongs don't make a right. So I don't want to sit here and be like, well, Justin slept with all these people, whereas Britney only kissed one person. Wrong is wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. In my opinion, she should have walked away the moment she found out that he was cheating. But you can let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. So Britney says that there came a point where she thought, well, if Justin is doing it, I can do it too. And she says that she kissed a choreographer that she had worked with before. And then Justin went on to record Justified and paint himself as the victim. But before that, Britney falls pregnant with Justin's child. Britney says that she had always wanted kids. This was a little bit earlier than she had anticipated, but that if it had only been up to her, she would have gone ahead with the pregnancy. Justin, however, thought this was absolutely terrible. It was the worst thing. It was terrible for their careers. Britney had to have an abortion. And so only 3 people knew about this. It was Britney, Justin, and Britney's longtime assistant, Fee. Now, I don't know much about abortion. I don't care to look this up. But apparently Britney took some pills and that caused the abortion. I don't know what pills they were. I don't know how far along in the pregnancy she was. But she was just at home on the bathroom floor, took the pills, and they had their effect. And apparently this is what Justin wanted. And she says that she doesn't forgive him. It's not okay. I dislike Justin. I've never been an NSYNC fan. I was always more of a Backstreet Boys person than an NSYNC person. I don't particularly like Justin's music, but just from the little that I know about him, I like him less and less. So look, I understand if one person wants the child and the other person doesn't. I understand that has to be incredibly difficult because there's no compromise. It's either you have the child or you don't. There's no way that you can compromise and have half a child. Like, it doesn't work. So I understand it's a very difficult decision. But ultimately it's Britney's body, my choice. If she wants to have the child, well, okay, why were you two fucking around if you're not ready for the consequences? Why weren't you using protection? If she wants to have the child and it's her body, she's the one who has to carry the child or have the abortion, I think she's got the biggest say. Because aren't we always reducing women down to their bodies? Aren't we always saying that, like, women are just baby-making machines, always reducing women down to their bodies? So, okay, by that argument, if it's her body, if that's, like, what she's been put on earth for, if that's, like, her purpose in this world, then she gets the say about whether she's ready to have a child or not, whether she wants to have an abortion or not. So heavily siding with Britney, and absolutely she should not be having an abortion by herself at home with no doctor, no one with medical training present. So I never liked Justin, but now I like him even less. So now, after the abortion, Justin dumps Britney via text. If that doesn't show you his lack of character, if that doesn't show how spineless this man is, they've been dating for God knows how many years, they've been through so much together, and he dumps her via text. What a piece of shit. Then, so prior to this, he was pulling away, he was really sort of weaponizing his feelings towards Britney, that she had kissed this choreographer. Look, wrong is wrong, but like, boy, you started it, you did much more. But you want to be a bitch, you want to write Cry Me a River like Britney hurt you, like you didn't start it. So he wrote the album first, he went and did all these interviews crying about how Britney broke his heart. And Britney's like, because he got there first, he told his story first. What could I say? How could I convince people? He already got there and told his story so convincingly and made it sound like I was sleeping around, like I was this whore. What can I do? And already there was this emphasis on, like, she's too sexy, she's corrupting the youth. So what Justin said really just fed into that narrative anyway, or even more. After the breakup, Britney goes back to Louisiana, and there's 2 things here. Firstly, she says that losing Justin also meant losing his family, because at this point she was spending, like, Thanksgiving and Christmas with his family. Now they were broken up, now she lost that family, so it was like a double loss to her. She says that she was basically comatose. She went back to Louisiana, she was just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, wouldn't talk, wouldn't sleep. And I think this is really where the downfall started. I think it was traumatic. I don't think she received the help and support that she needed following the breakup or the abortion. And I think this is where things really started to go downhill in her personal life. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's the right word to start with, but Britney is a very empathetic person, and she she says that she's very sensitive. She's like, if someone halfway across the country is feeling something, she's like, sincerely, I can feel what that person is feeling halfway across the country. And she believes in karma. So she thinks that anything bad that happens to her, she deserves, that she must have done something bad and this is her karma. So when people were being horrible at this time, saying that like she's a whore, blah, 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 she was internalizing it and saying, yes, I must deserve this. I must have done something wrong, which, girl, no. Absolutely no. I'm so sorry that you have these beliefs. I'm so sorry that you are this sensitive and the people around you are this shit. And this is what you had to feel. I'm so sorry. I personally don't believe in karma, and I don't believe that she deserved the things that happened to her. The silver lining for her is that she believes that if you can bring bad karma to yourself, then you can change your behaviors and then you can bring good karma to yourself. But girl, you didn't do anything wrong to begin with. You didn't deserve what was done to you. Sometimes bad things happen to good people for no reason. So jumping ahead, there's one evening where Britney is in Vegas and she spontaneously gets married to a school friend, a high school friend. And this is the marriage that lasted 55 hours. It shocked everyone. She didn't even have time to regret it. The second her parents heard about this, they flew to Vegas and like, you have to get this annulled. What are you thinking? This is crazy, blah, blah, blah. And she says she didn't even have time to regret it. And she's like, it's so strange that my family are responding so quickly and they want my husband away from me. Why is it so important for them to get away someone who's so close to me and potentially could impact my finances? Because at this point she was financially supporting the family, likely since she was 9. But at this point she doesn't quite realize the designs that her family have on her. So now she meets Kevin Federline, and she says the moment she fell for him, they were in a pool and he held her, quote unquote, really held her for hours. And that she doesn't remember the last time that anyone really held her like that. Again, more judgment on her parents for being shit. And yes, she says that it was really touching to have someone hold her when she was so sad, when she really needed that comfort. And that's the last useful thing Kevin Federline ever did for Britney. So jumping ahead, they get married, they have 2 kids. Her sons are 3 months apart. Like, that sounds painful, having a child and then 3 months later being pregnant with another child. Anyway, so she's got 2 young children. Kevin decides to record an album, which is widely said to be the worst album ever recorded. I listened to one song. It was garbage. I'm not exaggerating. I was surprised at how bad it was. Like, imagine being married to Britney Spears, this pop star, this hit-making machine. Her music is up here, and somehow your music is like so far on the ground. Boy, how is that possible? Be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, whatever. So Kevin was recording this album. He wasn't taking it seriously. Britney would go to see him, would bring the boys, and she says that people were, smoking, drinking, just lazing around, not taking the recording seriously. Probably that's why the album is so shit. But that sometimes he would start to be distant and refuse to see her. So now she probably still hasn't fully recovered from Justin, has 2 young children to take care of. Her husband is pulling away. She's doing everything that she can to support this relationship. During all this situation, she manages to record Blackout, which she says is the album she is most proud of. It was widely, critically acclaimed. But around this time, it was gotten back to her through her lawyers that Kevin wants to file for divorce, but he would feel guilty about it, and it would make her look bad that her husband wants to divorce her. Therefore, it would be a PR move if Britney filed for divorce. So Britney went ahead and filed for divorce. And then because she filed, she had to pay for all of Kevin's legal fees. So tell me, is it true that Kevin wanted to file for divorce but didn't want to embarrass Britney? Or is it that Kevin wanted to file for divorce but he's a broke piece of shit who's living off his popular wife, and so he's found a scheming way to manipulate her into footing the bill some more? I don't think this is the first or the last time that Britney has been lied to about what is the legal situation, what are the legal ramifications. We'll get into some more of that as the book goes on. Both parties asked for full custody of the kids, and there were times when Kevin had custody and he would refuse to let Britney see the kids, even if it was agreed that she would be coming to see them. She would drive there, he would deny her access, and he would use it as leverage. So he'd be like, if you do this, this, and this, maybe you can see the boys a little bit this weekend. I'm just going to read a little excerpt from the book showing you what she was dealing with. In February, after not getting to see the boys for weeks and weeks, I was completely beside myself with grief. I went to plead to see them. Kevin wouldn't let me in. I begged him. Jaden James was 5 months old and Sean Preston was 17 months old. I imagined them not knowing where their mother was, wondering why she didn't want to be with them. I wanted to get a battering ram to get to them. I didn't know what to do. The paparazzi watched it all happen. I can't describe the humiliation I felt. I was cornered. I was out being chased, like always, by these men waiting for me to do something they could photograph. So that was when I gave them some material. I went into a hair salon and I took the clippers and I shaved off all my hair. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Look at how crazy she is. Even my parents acted embarrassed by me. But nobody seemed to understand that I was simply out of my mind with grief. My children had been taken away from me. With my head shaved, everyone was scared of me, even my mom. No one would talk to me anymore because I was too ugly. My long hair was a big part of what people liked. I knew that. I knew a lot of guys thought long hair was hot. Shaving my head was a way to say to the world, fuck you. You want me to be pretty for you? Fuck you. You want me to be good for you? Fuck you. You want me to be your dream girl? Fuck you. I'd been the good girl for years. I'd smiled politely while TV show hosts leered at my breasts, while American parents said I was destroying their children by wearing a crop top, while executives patted my hand condescendingly and second-guessed my career choices, even though I'd sold millions of records, while my family acted like I was evil, and I was tired of it. And now let's jump ahead to 2008. So Britney has just had a visit with her children and she's putting them in the car to go back to Kevin. She puts one son in the car and then suddenly has the thought, what if I never see my kids again? Because Kevin had been denying her access, had been using the kids as a bargaining chip. So she's overcome with fear. She takes her one son and locks herself in the bathroom because she's not ready to say goodbye. So there's a friend home at this time who's speaking to her through the locked door and says, it's okay, we can wait. So Britney says some time must have passed, but to her it felt just like 1 second later when the SWAT team were kicking the door down, taking her and her child. I remember watching these scenes play out on TV, and I remember the news reporter being like, sensational scenes, Britney wheeled out on a stretcher, blah, blah, blah. And I remember watching the news with my mum, and my mum just being like, she's scared. And that was really powerful to me, and I still remember it today because this was when Britney was like, quote unquote off the rails and what will Britney do next? And my mum was able to see her as a human and have compassion and not fall for all these like BS headlines and just understand that she is scared, see her as a human being and see her fear. And yeah, that's just really powerful. I just remember it all these years later. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem that there were enough people with that level of compassion and understanding around Britney. So following this incident, Britney went to Mexico. I think at this point she was dating a paparazzo, and they went to Mexico and she said she felt she could breathe. There wasn't as much media presence there. But her mum called her and said, the police are looking for you back in the US. And Britney's like, why? Why are the police looking for me? All right, she comes back because she's not looking to cause any more trouble. And that's when she's restrained, taken to hospital, and that's when the conservatorship begins. So a woman named Lou Taylor was really instrumental in making this conservatorship happen. Britney did not know at the time that her dad was indebted to Lou, so probably that had something to do with it as well. So there are two types of conservatorships. There's conservatorship of the person and conservatorship of the estate. Conservatorship of the person means that you cannot make any decisions for yourself. You don't have the mental capacity. You can't dress yourself, you can't feed yourself. where you're going, who you're allowed to go with, whether you're allowed to have a car. You can't make those decisions for yourself. Someone has to make those decisions for you. So Britney's dad was appointed conservator of the person. Now, remember, Britney's dad is an alcoholic who's bankrupt, who's had a failed business. And he's going to be in charge of her. He's got a substance abuse problem, but he's going to make good decisions for her. Britney's dad and another lawyer named Andrew Wallet, which is an appropriate name, they were appointed conservators of the estate. So the estate basically means managing Britney's money, because supposedly she's not in the right frame of mind to do that. But how do they pay for all of this? With Britney's money. So she paid from her own money, as she words it, basically $500,000 to Andrew Wallet a year so that he could keep her from her money. And she also had to pay $500,000 to this lousy lawyer who was supposed to represent her, but didn't take the job seriously, didn't really advocate for her. And here's what she was lied to. I mean, probably she was lied to previously, but here's like one huge lie. She was told she cannot choose her own lawyer. She was told, this person that has been appointed to you, they are your one and only lawyer. You cannot change this. And this is a lie that she believed for 13 years. Now, some people ask, why did you go along with the conservatorship for so long? There are two aspects to this. Firstly, there's no timeline written into a conservatorship. So it could even just be for 1 month. You just get your act together after 1 month, and then the conservatorship is dissolved. I don't think she foresaw that 13 years later she would be in it. If she knew that, I think maybe she would have reacted differently. And then the other thing is, when she quote unquote behaved, or when she went along with what was asked of her, she got to see her kids. And she's like, I love my kids, I would do anything for them, I would lay down my life for them, so why not my freedom? If this is what I have to do to have time with my kids, I will do it. And they are the two main reasons that she didn't push to get out of the conservatorship until later. The second half of the book details these 13 years. I'm just going to jump ahead towards the end of the conservatorship. But we should bear in mind that at this time, Britney supposedly can't dress herself, can't feed herself, is mentally incapacitated, can't even take care of herself. But she can record an album, she can memorize all the lyrics, memorize all the choreography, go on a world tour, the circus world tour where there was, acrobatics, she's spinning up in the air. Supposedly can't dress herself, but you trust her to be on stage doing all these dance routines and acrobatics. She then did the Las Vegas residency, brought, God knows how much money into Vegas. Again, supposedly can't even dress herself, but she can be the star of the show. She's reliable enough, she comprehends enough that she can remember all the choreography, all the stage directions, all of the scheduling. And to really drive the point home, at this time, she was also teaching monthly dance classes to children. And there are about 40 kids in the room. So she's literally the adult in the room. She has to understand and memorize the dance moves and explain them in a way that makes sense to the kids, while also being responsible for their welfare while she's supervising them. She can take care of 40 kids at once, but she can't take care of herself. Like, how did this conservatorship happen? There's like gross negligence left, right, and center. Who let this happen? Who was the judge? At the very least, some people need to lose their jobs, and I think really some people need to be in jail. Who let this conservatorship happen? Every single one of you needs to be in jail. Gross fucking negligence. So after 3 years performing in Vegas, it was 1 month on, 1 month off. So 1 month she would have 3 performances a week, then 1 month not on stage but still rehearsing. After 3 years of doing the same Vegas show over and over, she was sick of it. She wanted to do something different. So she had asked, please, like some new songs, some remixes of old songs, change the track order, just something. I'm getting bored. And she was told no. And she was told, we're going to finish the Vegas residency. But supposedly she was supposed to have a holiday with her kids after this, but it got really chopped down. And she was told, no, we can't just end it. We then need you to go on a world tour. And then we need to announce that you're doing another Vegas residency. And she's like, what? No. I've always done what was expected of me. I followed all instructions because I always thought this would end if I show I'm complying, I'm going to all these like AA meetings even though I'm not an alcoholic, I'm seeing God knows how many psychologists and psychiatrists, I'm being supervised all day and all night. I'm going along with all of it to show you that I'm not a threat. I want my kids back, I want my life back. And finally this was the straw that broke the camel's back. So she did this appearance where she was supposed to announce that she would be returning for another Las Vegas residency. But she didn't. She just signed a few autographs and then just got in the car. And for that, her parents made her disappear. She was sent to a facility in Beverly Hills where she had to be in bed at 9 o'clock. She couldn't bathe in private. She couldn't close the door to her bedroom. She had to give blood samples weekly. And she got to watch 1 hour of TV every day, supervised. Now, I don't know how people knew, but around this time one of the nurses called her over and showed her one of the monitors and said, hey, look at this, and it was the hashtag FreeBritney movement. I don't know how people knew, because I don't think the conservators really were publishing what they had done to Britney, but someone had done some investigating and had been like, where is Britney? Is she being held somewhere against her will? And she said that she really does believe that she's connected to her fans, and that if she can feel what people are feeling halfway across the country, that other people could feel her distress, and that's how people knew that she was in trouble and that she needed help. So I think this was around like 2020, 2021, around that time. I think I was watching an episode of the Mile Higher podcast here on YouTube. If I find it, I will link to it. But this is when I heard of the Conservatorship, and the hosts were saying, we all remember what happened in 2008, Britney's, so-called meltdown, and her dad became her conservator. But what you may not know is that that conservatorship is still ongoing. And so around 2020, 2021, that's when I was like, really? Is that still going on? I hadn't heard of it before. So this is when the Free Britney movement happened. She was then let out of this facility. I'm not really quite sure what prompted it. She was let out of it. But here's when she decided to really push to get out of the conservatorship. And she says that of all of the awful things that were done to her in those 13 years, the worst was that at her lowest point, it made her lose her faith in God. Look, each to their own, but I'm like, that's the worst thing that was done to you, but I'm not a spiritual person. But anyway, she said that she found her faith, and she said, you can't fuck with a woman who knows how to pray, and I mean like really fucking pray. So her first step was to show people that she is human. So that's when on Instagram she started posting more, and she had a lot of fun, especially with trying on new clothes. Now, I don't really follow her on Instagram. I have looked her up a little bit, obviously, in light of this book. I don't follow her. But I have looked, and she does post a lot of like naked sort of selfies, and I personally don't understand, because she says when you have been subject to people sexualizing you and controlling your body for so many years, it feels really good when you have the power and you can control your body. And she had some of that fun and freedom with trying on clothes. Look, I don't understand, so if there's something that I'm missing, please let me know in the comment section. But if you have been sexualized, if people have imposed on you that you have to wear these skimpy costumes, when you take your power back, why would you choose to keep wearing skimpy costumes? Why would you choose this book cover? Surely if you have the choice and people have been overstepping the bounds, don't you want to be like, hey, fuck off, I'm going to put this barrier up, you don't have access to my body anymore? That's how I interpret it. If there's something that I'm missing, please let me know in the comment section. But anyway, she said the first step was getting people to see her as a human, so she started posting more content on Instagram. The next thing was she started speaking more to her court-appointed lawyer. I think it was like once or twice weekly, and really trying to get, what does this lawyer know about my situation? What are they doing to advocate for me? What are my options? And she realized this lawyer is kind of like wishy-washy. They're not really advocating for me. They don't have the strength and the conviction that I have to end this. So on June 21st of 2021, she called the police to report her dad for abuse of conservatorship. Now, this part of the book is quite short, probably because it was such a harrowing time in her life. Probably she doesn't want to remember it anymore, but she got her own lawyer, a better lawyer, who was shocked to hear that she had been denied her own representation. He said even vicious criminals get to choose their own lawyer. Long story short, she was able to get out of the conservatorship, but she found it very hurtful that along the way lots of people were doing interviews and writing tell-all books, people who were, you know, supposedly friends, family members, and she's like, if I am a friend or a family member and I'm in pain and I've confessed something to you, Jamie Lynn, shouldn't that be confidential? Shouldn't I be able to trust you? Not that you're going to, you know, run off and write a tell-all book about it. But she is compassionate. She does have compassion for everyone, including her sister. And she's like, you know what? I tried to give to my family. I wanted my sister to have all the things that I didn't have. I bought things for my family so they wouldn't know poverty. My sister threw it back in my face, but I only wanted to do better for her. She's like, but I sympathize. By the time my sister, you know, came along, my parents were divorced. So my sister grew up in a divorced household. I didn't. She's just very compassionate, even for people who have hurt her. She's out of the conservatorship now. She wrote in the book that she was married and that she was pregnant, but unfortunately 1 month later she had a miscarriage. And I just felt sadness because this woman has been through so much. She did not need to have the miscarriage on top of everything else that she's been through. Obviously nobody deserves to have a miscarriage, but everything that this woman has been through, she did not need that. I hear that she says she's retired from music now. I can understand. I think it's a shame, but I can understand in the last few years if she really had had enough. I completely understand, and it is her choice to make. In doing a little background research for this book, I saw that she made a post on Instagram where she's like, I didn't mean to offend anyone with this book. That wasn't the aim. I'm so sorry. It's like all behind me now. It's a blank slate. And it's like, you have nothing to apologize for. And you have not, if anyone is offended, that says something about them and their guilty conscience. As I said, there are people who she could have been mean and spiteful about, and she wasn't. I have been angrier. I have been meaner and more aggressive in this video than she ever was at all in any of her book. And it's not even my life story, it's her life story. She has grace and dignity, and she's compassionate towards people and forgiving. So for anyone to be slandering her and saying, oh, Britney is vicious, Britney is out to get this person, absolutely not. Read the book, and if you've read the book and you've chosen to skew it like that, shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. The final thing that I want to talk about is she now has migraines. She believes that the rage that she has for her family has physically manifested in her body in the form of migraines. She says that she never had them before, but now when she has them, she needs to stay in bed for a day and a half to get rid of them. But she doesn't want to go to the doctor because she's scared, having been forced to see so many doctors and being told, if you don't go, we're going to restrain you. If you don't go, we're going to take your kids away. She's scared to go to the doctor. So again, it's unfair. And yeah, if I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was forced to go into AA and I had to, you know, confess things or talk about things that I didn't have, a condition that I didn't have, if I was forced to see all these psychologists when I didn't have a mental health issue, I think I would go mad. So this woman is so strong, but she should not have had to be this strong. And I believe she actually says that in the book. She's like, I'm the strongest, the most fearless person now, but I shouldn't have to be this strong and this fearless. I should not have had to go through this. And I 100% agree. So there need to be consequences. All the people who put this conservatorship in place, all the people who allowed it to stay in place for 13 years, there need to be consequences. You can't just walk away. And so concludes one of my more animated book reviews. I know that usually I am quite monotone, but yeah, what was done to Britney is injustice of the highest order. So that is my book review. Let me know if you've read this book. Let me know if you want to share any thoughts, comments, opinions. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you for stopping by, and maybe I will see you next time.